Hey guys, welcome to the definitive ranking of Four Swords Anniversary Edition for the 3DS.
FSAD. AE.
Or the original, if that's what you played.
Not FSA.
Not Four Swords Adventures, Four Swords Anniversary Edition. The original OG Four Swords, originally packaged with A Link to the Past on the Game Boy Advance. Back then it was such a hurdle to play this game because you needed multiple copies of A Link to the Past, you need multiple Game Boy Advances, you need link cables, and everybody in one location.
That's just okay. I changed my mind about my whole ranking here. This whole game should fall under side content and extras because it was just an add-on for
A Link to the Past?
Yeah.
That's one way. Well, let me ask you this: did you ever play this with A Link to the Past?
No, I didn't. I didn't own that version of A Link to the Past.
Okay. Did you get it on your 3DS when?
No. Okay.
See, not only was it on the 3DS, but it was like it came out as part of the 25th anniversary of the Legend of Zelda series, and it was a free download for people who were early adapters to the 3DS, but it was only available for a few months, and then it got removed from the market.
Yeah, I didn't get a 3DS until I think maybe Ocarina of Time came out, or maybe
that was
after, right?
Basically a launch title. That was 3 months into it.
What am I thinking of? I probably got it for A Link Between Worlds because I didn't.
Okay.
I definitely didn't have it the 25th anniversary because that was when Skyward Sword came out too, right? Mm-hmm. Didn't have one then. So
okay. So when was the first time you played this game?
I probably put hands on it, like at a marathon at one point, but not enough to like have any of it sink in. Okay. So this is my first real.
So when we played it together, multiplayer, 2 players. That was your first real experience with the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
I would say.
Okay. So a few things about the Anniversary Edition that's different. One, you can play it single player. And you can also play it 2 players or 4. Like, you don't need 4, So there's different ways to play it. And I think that actually affected the gameplay a little bit. And we'll get to that in a bit. But this is probably the least accessible Zelda game in the series, amongst the main line, I should say. Because you literally can't go and get it right now.
Yeah.
It was available for like 1 day in like 2014 for whatever reason. It was like 4/4. I think it was like April 4th,
why?
2014. It was like 4/4/4. So let's release 4 swords for 1 day or something. It was something like that.
Why?
I might be off by a couple.
Why?
Years. I don't know.
This game is so baffling to me for many reasons, but
I feel they can put this out right now for $30 and people would buy it.
Yeah,
just to have it. Like, why not?
They could call it like the Four Swords Anniversary Edition 2 for the 35th anniversary.
Yeah, there's a decent amount of content in here too. This is not a quick game. Like. But
yeah.
Let's first talk about the world, which I'll start off by saying I gave it a 1 because there's an opening. We'll get to the story in a second, but there is an opening like cutscene with the story. But after that, there's really no characters to think about in this game.
Yeah,
there's no real dialogue, not much. The world is like almost like a Super Mario Brothers level where there's just levels.
Yeah,
they're not
and
connected.
That's fine to me.
Yeah,
to me, I see why you're going with a 1 because you're kind of going on based on other Zelda games.
Yeah,
right?
To an extent.
Mine is like I'm just trying to think about it as a game, and I was just like, well, for what it is, it's fine. It doesn't matter, Okay. I mean, I guess some more. Eventually, we'll probably talk about Four Swords Adventures, and I think it does that a little bit better, where it has characters and and so maybe that should knock this down. But for me, playing it, the world wasn't a concern. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, especially considering it was like this add-on side thing.
Yeah.
I just want it to be a fun thing to play.
Okay.
But that being said, like, the world, there's nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
So I just didn't go that low, but it's not very good or anything.
I think that's going to carry over to a lot of the categories here where it's like, yeah, it's there, but it's like, who cares?
There's like 2 to 4 categories in this that I think are important for this game, but also that is questionable too how well they do. So
okay, let's talk about the art style.
Yeah, you went higher on that.
I thought it was not egregious. I will say This is more with the anniversary edition portions. When you're back in the like a Link to the Past world, or the Link's Awakening world, and then there's like Minish Cap Moblins. They feel way out of place a little bit.
Yeah, though they did do a good job with some aspects of those worlds, making them look like the old games. But I don't know. I don't know if they should have gone all the way or what they should have done. You know.
Okay.
But, it was cool. Like in the Game Boy world, it was all green and stuff. That was kind of cool. But I don't know. For me, just the general art style is kind of like, it looks like
it. It was very to me. I think it's very safe. This is pre Minish Cap, by the way, but it had a lot of Minish Cap elements in it. Actually, I don't know I think Minish Cap was being developed at the same time. I don't remember.
Yeah, they do look similar. It looks worse though. Minish Cap to me it at least has some kind of charm to it, some might say, but this to me it was just like, it's Zelda.
Yeah.
It feels, I don't want to say lazy, but safe might be a better word.
Yeah, very very safe. It has some decent official artwork with the 4 links.
Uninspired, I would say.
I don't look at this and feel like I think there's some negative art styles where like the graphics don't look, there's nothing stands out to me as this looks bad.
Yeah. It's again to me serviceable. That's why it's like it's fine. That's my 2 is like it's whatever. It gets the job done. Not really what I'm looking for out of this game. I mean, it would be a bonus. All these things would be a bonus, if it had a cool world and art style, that would be even better, but
okay.
I just want it to be fun.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Nobody's playing this game because it has a great art style.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the story.
Okay.
I gave it a 1.
Yeah. I'm still on the whatever.
And you know what? So like we were playing, we started the game, and we were like, oh, we missed the initial cutscene initially the first time because like we already entered the game. You have to just wait.
It's in the intro title screen.
And that's all the story, more or less.
It's kind of like, I don't know, like the NES games.
Yeah.
Where they have that cutscene, but it's not, or like the kind of explainer text, but it's not even in the game.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know.
I felt like, this is sort of what you were saying earlier, like the purpose of this game, like I don't care about the story, was I guess the big thing. I know it's sort of, like it does connect with like some of the sequels that came after it, like Minish Cap and 4 Swords Adventures. Those 2 games in particular have a connection with 4 Swords. This is the origin of the 4. I mean, this is the first of that trilogy, so to speak. But like, I just, I just don't care about it. There is at no point when I'm playing this game am I thinking what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing that could have been. It could have been an added bonus, and I think, I'll keep comparing it, but like we'll get to FSA someday, and it does have a story that's kind of interwoven in there, and each world even has like some of them are story missions,
Yeah.
Some aren't, but they still weave the story in. This is just like you wander around and you're picking up blocks and stepping on stuff, and it's who cares,
So, looks like you got 2s all across the board.
So far,
including with the pacing and progression. You
You
gave it a strong, solid 2, it looks like.
Whatever. I mean, the game, it just gives you a world map. Just pick where you want to go. It doesn't matter where. And I don't know. It's fine, but...
Does progression even exist in this game?
I guess not, no. Like the worlds you would theoretically think have progression, but they don't really either.
So one thing about the levels that I guess we'll talk about this more with dungeons later on, but the levels have each level sometimes it like has like an outer perimeter, and then there's a big square area in the middle.
Yeah,
that's randomly generated, and there's like 6 different variations of it or something like that. So when you play the Sea of Trees or something, you're in World 1-1, but like that middle area, there's different versions of it. So it's not the same levels over and over.
Right.
But I don't necessarily think, at least in the base game, there's the first 3 stages, and then your bodies. like those levels I don't feel progressed. There was no difficulty progression, I feel. I do feel the DLC or the Anniversary Edition segments were much longer and a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
So the bonus content, which we'll get to later, is a little bit longer and more difficult. But I don't think there was any difficulty progression.
Yeah, and I don't know if there needed to be, because it's sort of, it again is just something you're kind of, it's supposed to be more of a party game.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of different worlds with different types of puzzles, which is fine, but there was no, like, I don't know, there was no excitement to it. It was just like, as we were doing it, I felt like we were just checking off the worlds.
Yeah.
Like maybe the last world, the Vadi's castle or whatever, should have been harder or more exciting, but we were going there and it didn't feel like we were going to the end.
And maybe it was a little harder, but it just didn't, the game's not that hard to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a point where the first playthrough we did where we played through the main game, I was never like upset, but I was just kind of like not really that excited going to any of these places. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what the progression needed to be. Like I don't think there's much they could have done.
Yeah.
But that's not really a problem in this game to me either.
Yeah. I didn't give it a 1 because I did like the idea of the choice aspect. It's not a linear game in the sense that you can pick your levels however you want to do it.
Yeah, that is cool.
So I gave it something. I didn't give it a 1. All right. Our first major difference here, gameplay and combat. You gave it a 1.
This is the category where it had to be good.
This is the one you think that matters.
Yes.
So nothing before this really mattered too much.
None of that mattered. If it was a fun game, if it was fun to play,
okay,
that's all that it could have been.
Yep.
And I wasn't having a bad time. Like, we had a good time on stream, but the game, it feels so bad to play.
Okay.
I couldn't get over how slow you move.
Yes.
It was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
And I was having fun again because we were streaming it, but it was awful. Now I know why you gave it a 4, because there are some fun puzzles involving multiplayer and stuff like that.
So I want a big caveat here. If you're playing this game 1 player, and I also think 2 players, this score would be lower. But as a 4-player adventure,
yeah,
this game is a riot, I think. In
I
fact,
could see that, because in that I said it a lot on stream, but the slow moving can kind of control the chaos a little bit.
Okay.
Because that's a lot to have on this tiny screen, you know. But I don't know. To me, then it's like, I think, again, I'll bring up Four Swords Adventures. I've played that game single player. It's pretty okay. It's pretty fun single player. I played through that entire game with me and a friend back in the day, and we had a blast. And then I've played it 4-player at the marathon, and it is so fun. This game, I can only imagine it being fun with 4 people, and you're goofing around, which is important.
Yeah.
But then it's like, it's kind of like your whole thing with Triforce Heroes.
Okay.
It's like, why did these other modes exist?
Yeah, that's a very valid point. This game originally was not a single-player game. You couldn't play single player.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were able to play 2 players in it. I think you could, but
yeah.
It's meant to be played 4-player. And just as Triforce Heroes is meant to be 3 players.
Right.
Like, when you play anything less than its intended purpose, I feel it loses a lot of what the game is. And I love that it's kind of bite-sized, this game. It's not very long. That's one of the complaints I have about Four Swords Adventures, is that some of the levels are so bulky where you're in there for 40 minutes. I think the longest level we were in was 12 minutes. But in the base game, I think the longest level was like 5 to 6 minutes.
Yeah.
They're really short and sweet.
I agree with that, though I don't think Four Swords Adventures is meant to be played all through in one sitting.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that I had fun with my friend, because we would play a couple levels and then be like, all right, let's do it again some other time, you know. But this you could just play through it all and get through it like we did, the whole main game in one sitting.
The base game is about an hour. It's not much longer. And then the bonus content is probably another hour and a half, 2 hours.
When you and I would talk about whether or not someone likes Triforce Heroes or not, and they would evaluate it on playing with their 2 good friends, they're like, you know, Allison on our site would play it at the marathon, and she'd say, I love this game. Play with my friends. It's fun. I think that's valid. Just like I think your score here is valid. I'm only evaluating like my experience with it this one time.
Okay.
If we want to do it again sometime and play with 4 people,
yeah,
I could change my tune, but that's just how I feel about playing it just now with you and me.
Yeah. It has the gameplay. It's a cooperative game, but there's also that competitive aspect that I really like. I could be competitive. I like being competitive in like games that are not really that competitive. And this is like one of the, but like there's like a ranking at the end of who got the most. Are they rupees in this game? Or yeah, they're rupees or 4 whatever gems. And like I remember when like there's like 4 treasure chests that pop up and like it's like kind of random what's in them.
Yeah, that was kind of fun.
But with 4 people, it's even more fun. And then you can get like Bow Wow, and like if I have Bow Wow and he can attack you and steal your rupees.
Yeah, for some reason I was feeling like, and maybe it's just because I played with 4 people in FSA, but like there's more to that competitive nature.
Okay.
It might be because at the end you have it'll be like enemies killed, and you move up on the ranks, and then it'll be like, lives lost, and you move down.
Yeah.
There's a lot being factored in, whereas like we would just play through the whole world, and then at the end it's like, here's who did better.
Yeah.
Here's your coin, and I'd be like, okay, I don't know. I guess it seems like Moss did better.
Yeah.
But I never felt like at the end of any of those worlds that I did worse than you.
Oh, well, you did.
Apparently,
I think
yeah.
7 times in a row.
There was one I
You won the last one, yeah. The difference, like the main difference, though, is these levels are so small and bite-sized, and they're not linear, generally speaking. Like, you can just explore because there's little treasure chests all over the place.
That was pretty cool, yeah.
4 Swords, I know we're comparing it a lot to 4 Swords Adventures, but naturally, those levels later on are just... You got to do step A, then step B, then step C. Like, it's incredibly linear.
It does suck when everyone is wandering around going, oh, where do we go next? Where do we go next?
You can't really do that. Like, everybody has to be on the... No, guys, we got to go through this door. We got to go back to that room and then come back. Like, it's actually too linear, where this doesn't have that.
This is sort of annoying, though, at times when we're playing with the 2 players, because it'd be like, oh, I found a switch.
But you needed 2 people for it or something. Yeah. I think that gets alleviated a little bit if there's 4 people when only 2 people need to lift a rock. Yeah. Because you're not on the other side of the world sometimes. But yeah, I like the gameplay. So I think we're gonna differ on that one, and that's okay. I totally see your point, though.
Yeah, I get it.
All right, let's talk about the items and abilities.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. You get like, there was some fun stuff with like the magnets. There was some fun puzzles with that, I would say. But overall, it felt pretty standard. I just felt like a lot of the game was walking around, slashing at monsters.
Yeah.
Especially, remember we were like to the later ones, and it was just a series of step on the switch, enemies show up.
Yeah.
And you fight. I was getting so tired of it. I was like, okay.
There's almost too much combat at that point.
Yeah.
I do like the diversity of the items. I mean, this is a really small game, but it has most of the arsenal of the Zelda series in it. You got your bombs, boomerang, bow and arrow. Those are not that interesting, but I did like Rock's, not Rock's feather, but they had Rock's cape in this one, which is always fun.
Yeah. It has better Pegasus boots than Minish Cap.
Good Pegasus boots, and it had the magnetic gloves. Some of those were like old items from from Oracle of Seasons, and some of these went out, like you get the little Picori hat, which is like a new item that became something in Minish Cap. Like,
yeah, that's cool. So they had to have been thinking about
it. Was Flagstaff made both these games, so it was like the same, or Flagship. I think they were making them in unison at the same time.
Okay.
So, like, they knew the story was going to connect. Like, I think that was one of the selling points.
And you'd have to do a lot, like, okay, we need bombs here, but first you got to be small, so you can a lot of using both items.
I liked the puzzles that required 2 players. So it's like, oh wait, you need to be small to get across the river, but then you need bombs across the river.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, so I got to drop a bomb, pick it up, throw it. You got to get it and then pick it up and then use it.
Yeah.
And it was like a good 2-player co-op. I liked that. That was fun.
Yeah.
There's some puzzle solving with there. So I thought it was okay. I like the diversity of the items.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Maybe the gameplay is okay. But it felt...
Am I selling you on the gameplay, though?
No, because it's
just too slow. I know.
Because then the other half of it is you step on these switches and all the enemies appear, and it's just like, oh, I have to slowly and gruesomely fight them. So, yeah.
Let's talk about the dungeons. This is one that was...
This is the other important category, I think.
Okay.
Not because it needed dungeons necessarily. I'm more interpreting it as the levels, you know, the level design. And yeah, I don't know, like some of them were fine, but overall, like a lot of them felt very uninspired or like just kind of generic to me.
Well, we had the Sea of Trees, which was like, you know, the woods. Then we had Death Mountain.
The settings were okay.
Yeah. What was the other one? Talus Cave, was it called? Mm-hmm. And it was just, I don't even know what was it just generic landscape? I don't remember. Was it the desert? No, there was no desert.
It's so unmemorable to me. I don't know.
That goes to show you. Like, we just played this game 3 days ago and we don't remember.
I'm thinking about it too, though, from like a gameplay perspective. There was some of the puzzle elements that you mentioned that were cool, that had okay design. But like, then there were levels that were just like, and maybe this would be more fun with more players, but there was like the one that was just identical squares of trees with treasure chests. And that's it. That was the whole level. And you move slow. So I'm just slowly moving from square to square, opening chests. And it was excruciating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it'd be one, I get the idea if it's like there's 4 people and you're all scrambling for chests. You don't need anything else. But like, I don't know why. That was just that felt like such a filler to me, you know? And that's how some of the areas felt, where, or same thing, where it's like, step on a switch and just a bunch of enemies show up. Okay, move to the next area. A bunch of enemies show up. You fought them a million times, you know? Like, there was a decent amount of, like, fun puzzles, but overall, like, the level design didn't ever really impress me, you know? It felt like, there were a lot of levels where we were just walking around that perimeter, just like, all right, lifting a rock.
Yeah.
If you lift this rock, some enemies appear for some reason.
Yeah, and then rupees fall.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I didn't give it a 1 just because I like the later, like the extra levels. I like the nostalgia that they brought when, like, you get to go back to Hyrule Castle from A Link to the Past. You get to see the world of the Gapongo Swamp from Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
So it was a good nostalgic trip a little bit. So
I felt like those could have been a better nostalgic trip though too. Remember, we kept being like, "Oh, this is gonna lead to like Aghanim's Tower," and then like the last level's like in the Lost Woods. And then we were like, "Oh, we're gonna end up at the Windfish," and then like the last level was, I don't even remember where, but it's just some random location. Like, that was the progression of those levels. I felt like they should have been like start at Castle Grounds was one, then we should have been like inside the castle, and then like the tower, you know, that should have been, there should have been progression to that. Because that would have been a cool trip down memory lane, instead of just like, well, we made these maps out of these areas, you know. And
what really hurt that is you went back to games like A Link to the Past and Link's Awakening, but you didn't bring many of the bosses.
It was just like, here's some
the bosses were very underwhelming in this game. In fact, some of the levels, do they even have bosses? Like, I remember there was the Manhandle looking guy where we had to, like, the color coordinated hits, like his leaves were red and like, okay, and that gets a little bit more exciting with 4 people because there's more colors. Vadi, like, he's all right. Yeah, the playing the volley, hitting the ball back and forth, like,
that was kind of a classic thing. You do that in like 4 Swords Adventures too, where you have all the colors.
Yeah, but this is the original though, so like, you know, like, it's hard. But and then there was that one ice enemy. I don't know his name, but you kept getting frozen over and over.
I didn't realize till later that if you were touching, I didn't understand what was freezing him, and it was this ice wall. But we're like standing on ice, so I was like, I didn't understand that as like a different thing.
One ice is colder than the other, apparently.
Yeah. Okay.
So the bosses sucked. This is the worst bosses in the game.
This does Vadi is lame in this, I think.
I don't argue Vadi's always lame, but
I just think like if you're a Vadi fan and you want to see him more, like you can't point to this game.
His Vadi's original debut.
Yeah, it's pathetic.
Okay. I will say though, I gave it a 2 because there are a few enemies that I just adore. Mm-hmm. And it's the enemies that are made specifically for the multiplayer.
That's why I thought you were going high too with the gameplay. Is that those are cool, yeah.
Where there's one guy's where if you have to yank on him, but if you just pull on him, nothing happens. But you need another player on the other side, and both of you need to pull at the same time. Mm-hmm. That gets rid of his shell. Yeah. And then there's the other enemy where you have to pick him up. He's invulnerable, but when you throw him, then he opens himself, and then your partner can slash at him.
Those were fun.
Yeah,
we had fun with those.
Something really rewarding about that.
I think there should have been more of that, actually.
Yeah, I think there could have been.
As opposed to like, oh, there's another Chew or
a bunch of Stalfos and Moblins and whatnot.
Kind of got over fighting them, yeah.
And then there was those one enemies at the end. They reminded me of it reminded me of the boss of the Color Dungeon from Link's Awakening.
Oh, because you have to keep slashing it.
Because you hit him and he gets smaller and smaller, but then if you don't hit him, he starts like growing back up again. And so it's like you got to kind of get it where I hit him, you hit him, I hit him, you hit him until
we never did that right.
Eventually we just like
I would just power through.
It was hard to get in a rhythm because of this. I'm thinking this is another one that's easier with 4 people because
everyone's just gonna wail on him.
When I hit him, I recoil back, so I'm out of the picture. So it's like unless you're in the right position,
you could do it where you're against a wall.
Yeah,
I think
like when he was in a corner and I was on the right and you were at the top, that was the way to do it.
Yeah.
With 4 people, it's a little more chaotic, but there's more opportunities to hit him right away. Mm-hmm. So again, play the game with 4 people. But so that's the enemies and bosses. Let's talk about the side content and extras.
This is the tough one because the game is the side content and extras. Like I was saying,
in of itself, you think? Okay. Yeah, I viewed the side content as the anniversary edition content.
Yeah, but even that came with the game though. Well, like the game was free for a window of time. You know what I mean? It's like hard to. Is it DLC if it's like part of the game? It doesn't really matter, but it's like.
I would argue that it wasn't in the original game. Mm-hmm. So there's the original release of this game, the Game Boy Advance version, and then they re-released it and added a bunch of features.
Yeah.
Is that side? I guess I considered it. But then there's that one, the trial, like the Gauntlet.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Which is a lot more difficult than everything else. That was the only time we were ever worried about getting game over.
Yeah. Yeah, all that's fine. Like the length of like the main game itself, I think is a good length. So then all this other stuff is kind of cool bonus stuff. If it was more fun to play.
Okay. I think this is the only category that both you and I gave collectively better results than both the community and the staff.
Yeah. I wonder what their interpretation was, but.
There might like there's other ways to think about this in the context of a Zelda game. It's like, what is there any collectibles in this game? Mm-hmm. Are there pieces of heart? I mean, there's heart containers between levels, but you don't keep them to the next world. And then there's the little collectibles you get that just power up your sword or your armor or your speed, but it's temporary.
And you're never really paying attention to that.
Yeah,
I feel like we'd be all of a sudden like, oh wait, I'm going faster.
Yeah, we were literally racing across the screen. Yeah. So, yeah. All right, let's jump to the music and the sound.
Yeah, this is the worst soundtrack I've ever heard, I think.
Oh, I would not say that, but geez, of any video game.
No,
ever?
Of Zelda.
Okay.
No, and by that I mean like, it's not even bad. It's like.
Can you remember a song from this?
No, you're playing with multiple people though, and like, you're not really even meant to hear the music.
Yeah,
because you're supposed to be hooting and hollering with your friends.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter, but like when we were playing with the two of us and there's some quieter parts where you can hear it and I'm just like, okay. Like, fine. It just sounds like generic fantasy music or something, you know?
Yeah, and you're right with that. Like, so this game, originally you needed the link cables. And now I think it was only available over Wi-Fi, like when you're playing, or near field communication or whatever it's called. So it's like, you can't play this online. I don't think you were... I could be wrong when it came, but I don't think you were able to play it online. Like,
okay.
I think it was like, it's meant to be together in a room, multiplayer. So you're right. It's not like Traverse Heroes where you're touching the buttons, like, hello, come here, you know.
Right.
This was meant like,
it did have the whistle.
Hey, go, come here. You
could whistle.
Yeah, like it's meant to be trash talking and cooperative play.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So that's the soundtrack of this game.
Yeah, the friends you make along the way.
So is this the worst Zelda game you've played?
Easily, yeah.
Up until this point, at least.
This is the first one, and again, actually, I think it's a good point. At the threshold of playing this with just one other person, I'm not just... This is not on a Zelda scale for me of it's not a good Zelda game. I don't think it's a good game at all.
Okay.
I think maybe with 4 players it might be, but
okay.
I've never fully experienced that.
Okay.
But I had fun, again, hanging out with the stream with you and just... experiencing I think a bad game can be fun.
Okay.
But it wasn't a good game. It's just not good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna defend it a little bit, even though it's at the bottom of my rank. So it's worth noting, it is the lowest game ranked from the community, the staff, you and me. We are all in unison on this one.
My bottom is so much lower.
Yeah, that is both the staff and you both have a more of a notable difference between them, and even the community. If you like take out Adventure of Link, there's a giant gap between like where Four Swords is and the rest of the lower end games. So this is clearly a lot lower, and this might be the scale a little bit doesn't do this game justice.
Well, no, like I said, the other things didn't matter, but like gameplay, it doesn't matter. Zelda, Mario,
okay,
Assassin's Creed or something. Like gameplay is, I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's bad gameplay for a Zelda game.
Yeah,
it's just not good gameplay for me. So like,
okay,
the scale, maybe it bumped up a few points if we're evaluating. Actually, no, I don't even know.
Yeah,
it's just not. Yeah, it's not good to me. You usually go lower than me on a lot of games.
I do, but I think this is an exception because I have very fond memories of playing this game 4-player. So
yeah, I need that. I think we gotta. Maybe I'll sign up for it more. I always feel like I'm gonna do it at the marathon, and then like the last time I tried it, it was 1 year where we cut it.
Okay.
But then I think Locke really wanted to play it afterwards. But it was like 3 a.m. or something, and I tried to play it, and I was so tired, and I was like, "I'm out. I can't play it."
Yeah. It's got to be the right everything. The conditions need to be right for success. Well, that's a wrap on Four Swords Anniversary Edition, and next month, I think we're doing something that you and I both kind of enjoy.
Yeah, it'll be cool to see. There's gonna be differentiation between everyone with that. So
we're doing this game called The Legend of Zelda.
We'll see how that fits on the definitive.
The Legend
ranking.
of Zelda for the NES, the original Legend of Zelda. I'm curious to see where you rank it because I've always felt like I've been like a huge Legend of Zelda, but I think in the last few years you've become more and more of a Legend of Zelda fan. Yeah. Which I don't know if you were like 5 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I've said it many times before. This is a tease, but it's now like a casual game for me.
Okay.
I just hang out. I play it. It's fun. It's a great game.
So. Yeah. So down below in the poll, there's a poll that links you to. Let's hear your opinions on The Legend of Zelda. So get involved, and we will see you guys in December for some Legend of Zelda.